Is your garden struggling despite all your efforts? The problem might be hiding in plain sight, specifically in something you've been adding to your soil believing it's beneficial. Stick around to uncover the unexpected consequences of a widely accepted gardening practice that's actually sabotaging your plants, and learn what to avoid to finally achieve a thriving garden. The lure of the golden additive. Corn-based products have infiltrated gardening advice across social media, forums, and publications. So, cornmeal is often touted as a magical disease suppressant, and, corn gluten meal is marketed as this pre-emergent herbicide that also feeds your soil. The advice really does sound reasonable, even scientific, and it usually comes from sources we trust. The golden color of these products seems to promise golden results, and since corn is natural and organic, it just feels safe and beneficial, doesn't it? The appeal here is totally understandable. Corn products are easy to find at just about any feed store or garden center. They're also pretty inexpensive compared to a lot of specialty amendments out there. And the claims are impressive. Everything from preventing fungal diseases to suppressing weeds, all while feeding your plants. Honestly, it sounds like the ultimate multitasking amendment every gardener dreams of finding. But what if this common wisdom is actually setting your garden up for failure? I mean, what if the very product you're applying with the best intentions is creating problems beneath the soil surface that will take weeks or months to manifest? The unseen sabotage below. The fundamental problem with corn-based amendments lies in basic soil chemistry, specifically the carbon-to-nitrogen ratio. You see, corn products contain extremely high levels of carbon relative to nitrogen. Fresh corn material can have a carbon-to-nitrogen ratio ranging from 50 to 1 all the way up to 100 to 1. This creates an immediate crisis when incorporated into garden soil because, well, soil microorganisms need nitrogen to break down carbon-rich materials. When you add high-carbon corn products to your soil, you're basically throwing a feast for soil bacteria and fungi. These microorganisms immediately begin multiplying to take advantage of this new carbon source. However, they need nitrogen to build their cell structures and, carry out metabolic processes. So, where do they get this nitrogen? Well, they extract it from the surrounding soil, the same nitrogen your plants desperately need for growth. This process is called nitrogen immobilization, and it effectively locks up available nitrogen in microbial biomass, rendering it temporarily unavailable to plants. The practical consequences manifest in ways that gardeners often misdiagnose. Your plants begin showing classic nitrogen deficiency symptoms. Lower leaves turn yellow and may drop off. Growth slows dramatically or stops entirely. Stems become thin and weak. And overall plant vigor declines noticeably. The frustrating part is that your soil may actually contain adequate nitrogen, but it's tied up in microorganisms feasting on the corn material you added. This can persist for weeks or even months until the microbes finish breaking down the carbon source and begin dying off, releasing the sequestered nitrogen back into the soil. I've witnessed this scenario play out countless times in community gardens where well-meaning gardeners apply corn gluten meal as a weed suppressant in spring. Then, watch in confusion as their transplanted vegetables yellow and stunt within weeks. They often respond by adding more fertilizer, which, provides temporary relief but doesn't address the underlying issue. The corn material keeps decomposing, continuing to tie up nitrogen, and that creates a frustrating cycle where gardeners just keep adding more inputs, trying to overcome the deficit they've inadvertently created. Beyond nitrogen, there are other hidden dangers. Nitrogen immobilization is just the beginning of corn-related soil problems, honestly. Corn kernels and corn-based products are extremely attractive to pest species that can devastate gardens. Whole corn kernels are, pretty much irresistible to rodents including mice, rats, voles, and squirrels. When you incorporate corn into your garden beds, you're basically creating feeding stations that draw these animals directly into your growing space. Once established, these pests don't just eat the corn, they damage plant roots, gnaw on vegetable crops, and create burrow systems that really disrupt soil structure. Corn products also attract birds, particularly crows and jays, which will vigorously excavate garden beds to access corn kernels. I've seen entire rows of newly planted seedlings destroyed by birds scratching through mulch and soil to reach corn gluten meal applied as a supposed weed suppressant. The irony is painful. An amendment applied to help the garden instead becomes the reason for its destruction. The fungal and mold issues associated with corn products are equally concerning, particularly in regions with high humidity or during wet seasons. Corn is a prime substrate for various mold species, some of which produce mycotoxins that can be harmful to beneficial soil organisms. The environmental footprint of corn-based amendments deserves consideration as well. Most corn grown in the United States is produced using industrial agriculture methods involving synthetic fertilizers, herbicides, and significant fossil fuel inputs. When you purchase corn products for garden use, you're actually supporting this system and, well, importing its environmental costs into your supposedly sustainable gardening practice. Better than gold are true soil amendments. If corn products create more problems than they solve, what should gardeners use instead? The answer, honestly, lies in amendments that have been scientifically validated through decades of research. Well-aged compost stands at the top of this list, and for good reason. Quality compost has a balanced carbon-to-nitrogen ratio, typically between 25:1 and 30:1, which means it won't trigger nitrogen immobilization. Instead, it releases nutrients gradually as it continues decomposing, providing sustained feeding rather than those boom-and-bust cycles. The key phrase here is well-aged. You see, fresh compost can actually create some of the same problems as corn products if it contains high carbon materials that haven't fully broken down yet. Cover cropping, honestly, represents the most sustainable and cost-effective soil improvement strategy available to gardeners. Instead of, purchasing and hauling in amendments, you're actually growing your own right where you need them. A simple combination of winter, rye, and crimson clover, sown in the fall, will produce more biomass and add more nitrogen than any reasonable application of purchased amendments, all while protecting soil from erosion, suppressing weeds, and building soil structure through root action. If you've already applied corn products to your garden, don't panic, but do take corrective action quickly. The immediate priority is adding a nitrogen source to compensate for the immobilization that's happening as microbes break down the corn material. Well-aged compost, applied as a 2-inch top dressing, will provide nitrogen while also introducing microbes that can accelerate corn decomposition. Looking forward, the key to soil health is really about moving away from that quick-fix mentality that makes corn products so tempting in the first place. Healthy soil, it's built through consistent and appropriate practices over time, not through those silver bullet amendments you might apply once or twice. So, focus on adding quality compost each year, use cover crops whenever your beds aren't in production, and, minimize tillage to preserve soil structure and the habitat for beneficial organisms. Don't forget to mulch, as it helps moderate temperature and moisture while keeping those pesky weeds at bay. And of course, rotating crops is crucial to prevent the buildup of pests and diseases. The corn for soil gold myth. It really sticks around because gardening advice often spreads based on anecdote rather than science. Someone might apply cornmeal and hey, their plants happen to do well, so they attribute that success to the cornmeal without even considering other factors. Your garden, honestly, deserves better than well-intentioned sabotage. Every single time you reach for an amendment, ask yourself whether it's actually backed by research, whether it addresses real soil needs instead of just perceived deficiencies, and whether it builds long-term soil health rather than offering temporary fixes. Corn products, they fail all three criteria. The amendments that truly build thriving gardens, they're less flashy, they might be more expensive up front, and they definitely require more patience, but they deliver real results that just keep compounding year after year. If this revelation has, changed how you think about soil amendments, and you're ready to build genuine soil health through scientifically sound practices, go ahead and subscribe to the Living Soil Lab. We're dedicated to cutting through gardening mythology and, honestly, delivering information that's backed by soil science and real-world testing. Share this video with fellow gardeners who, just like you, are tired of advice that sounds good but delivers disappointing results. Together, we're building a community that understands healthy gardens start with healthy soil, and healthy soil really requires informed decisions based on biology, not marketing. Your garden's true potential is waiting to be unlocked, and now, you have the knowledge to make it happen.